Thanks for coming, everybody. Sorry for the late start. We will just start with a little bit of an introduction of how each person and their company handles the connected kitchen. Why don't you start, Shawn?
Sure, thank you. So Shawn Stover, I lead smart home solutions at GE Appliances. We've been doing smart for quite some time. We basically have a full portfolio of products across all of our platforms: cooking, laundry, refrigeration, air filtration, ACs, water filtration, etc. The thing that we look at connected through is we really have kind of three lenses. It's convenience, peace of mind, and performance. Because just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should do it. So we look at it through those three lenses to kind of gauge what it is we're going to release in the marketplace and understand what it is we're going to deliver. Above and beyond that, we look at choice as one of our main things for our consumers and giving them that choice so that we're not locking them into one option. So between all the brands that we have and all the products that we have offering, and then an expanding ecosystem of partners like yourselves that are sitting out there that join into our platform and work together with our products, really give our consumers the choice that we feel that they want. And then finally, upgradability is one of the things that we hang our hats on, and that's really the point of a traditional product is the same the day that you buy it and the day that it dies. For a connected product, what we have inside of our platform is the ability to make that product get better and appreciate over time, so that when this thing is in your home for 10 to 15 years, it's different. It can adapt to you and your family changes that occur over that same time period. So that's kind of what we do at GE and kind of the philosophy that we use.
Okay, and Frank, can you talk a little bit about
Zvi Frank, I'm the co-CEO of CoPilot. We've developed an automated customer experience platform. Basically what it means is that we collect data, we analyze it automatically on the back end, and then we communicate back to the customer. And the idea behind this whole thing is that customer experience is key, and it drives lifetime value, which is part of a bigger transition. I guess what we bring to the table is what most of you probably already know is that your smart product is only as smart what people actually do with it. And if they don't do much with it, well, I guess it's not as smart as you might think. And this whole thing goes through, other than just functionality, it goes through a communication session, it goes through a relationship that kind of hides behind this idea of having an ongoing communication with your user base. So we've been doing this for big companies as big software projects over the years. And we have developed a SaaS platform that's basically much more accessible for companies that cannot afford, a huge team of people with BI and everything that it takes in order to analyze user experience and respond automatically on a big scale. So that's what we do.
Great.
Nate Cho with Electrolux Appliances. So for us, we sell under both Electrolux and the Frigidaire brand here in the US. And for us, the definition of product has kind of changed. It's no longer just the physical good. It includes the software that's associated with it. So for us, the big thing is how do we change from just thinking features and technical specs on the product to think more about holistic experiences we're offering. So that we can make people's lives more effortless and also actually very similar to what Shawn said, provide peace of mind. So yeah, that's what we're working on.
Well, that's great. Excuse me. So when you're finding consumers, you're trying to reach out to people and let them know the value of a smart product. What are some of the things that you have found to be successful to attract customers, and things that you think you could do better, or that might not, be the most ideal circumstances for communicating why people would want a smart appliance?
Demos are great. They're usually the top because when somebody can actually see it. So we have a thing, show me, don't tell me, show me, don't tell me, at GE, and that's where demos really come in, is really showing the power of what it is that it can do. Because if you take something and you just, I turn it on or I turn it off, that's interesting. But if I can make things work together and coordinate together and have this product do something after this product is done with it, I think it's very powerful for consumers to see and understand. So demos are one of our big ones. And then, we sell at all the nationals that are out there. So anytime that you can get something power to be able to show it, it's great. If it's unpowered, that would be one of the things that is really detrimental to us from a connected standpoint.
You mean in a showroom,
In a showroom,
things are
in a
not
showroom,
plugged
yeah.
in and they're just looking at a
Yeah,
thing?
if you're looking at a sea of stainless steel refrigerators and it's not powered up, there's not a whole lot you're going to be able to do with it.
Is that something that you can do point of purchase displays or things that try to teach people, but it's you really need to show?
You can, and with varying successes. I mean, if you're gonna do it, then it definitely has to be one of the top things that you're talking about. After you get past the first 2 or 3, it's kind of just all clutter after that.
Mm-hmm. And
I was gonna build on that, and that you have to look. I think when we first started the journey, we might have incorrectly looked at connected kind of by itself, and it's really looking at holistic as another thing. What else does it enable in the product, and comparing, and then you go down your list of what you want to talk about and just being very clear on what the key benefit or the use case for consumers are.
so in-person demonstrations in showrooms and other places, are there other ways to reach out and let people know? I mean, obviously advertising, but where are you finding the customers who are looking for this sort of thing? Mm-hmm. Is it just when people go to buy a new home, or how do you convince people to get rid of their dumb product and get a new one that's smart?
Yeah, I mean, social media is a great one. We find great successes there with working either by ourselves or with different influencers that have products to be able to kind of really show people what it's like when it's in their home. What's that experience that they're getting? So that's one that's worked well for us. I mean, you obviously have the big advertising if you want to do that. It's just, it can get expensive. So those are some kind of more grassroots types of things that we like to do.
Right now, when you're reaching customers and you're getting people who are buying these, who are you reaching? Who is actually buying smart products, and who isn't?
I was going to say some of the challenge currently is that there's definitely people who are buying the products and not even connecting them. They may not know that they have a connected product. Part of the challenge is, as we've discussed, even if you go to the store right now, you see a sea of stainless steel or white. The connected products don't necessarily look any different. So that's some area of opportunity, I think, to make it better called out. We kind of talked earlier a little about POP, but other ways to make what's enabled by connectivity very apparent to people and give them a reason to use it.
Yeah, I think just to add on to that, I think it is more the tech forward people. I mean, that's it's obviously early adopters. And again, I think an early adopter will buy your product because of a feature that they think is interesting or would help them. The masses will buy your product, in my belief, for the experience that they get out of owning that product, whether it be for the physical thing that the product does, or even just the peace of mind that is, if it breaks, they're going to be able to fix it or diagnose it, or they can send something over the air to actually take care of it. So it varies, but today I would say it's more your tech forward person for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that many of the products, and I think I've heard this from my colleagues here, would work fine without the connected piece, but it would work better and give more value if it is connected. Mm-hmm. So regardless of the effort, pre-sales of actually showing the fact that it is connected, what it can do, there is a whole struggle around mindshare once they actually get this into their home. And getting people to actually read or see or do something and then kind of move up the ladder of using it to fulfill the potential is a whole science in it for itself. You don't send one email and boom, he's there. Far from it. So the idea of striking a relationship and walking that fine line, and it is a fine line between sending a spooky message saying, I've seen you haven't used this and this, and why don't you? On the other hand, you'll be surprised, I guess, at how effective it can be if you deliver the message in the right way on the right channel, because email shouldn't be the only channel. Mm-hmm. And people actually get benefit, and where they actually, if you remind them of doing some maintenance that he should, or if you give him a hint at the right time, at the right moment, to the right person, that will actually make him, use the product he bought already in a more sophisticated way, you'll get a very strong positive reaction on the other side. So you need to invest in thinking about this communication that's going on behind the scenes.
And building on that, like one of the big benefits for the connected appliance is the ability to update it. Yeah. And so when those updates come and you get new features, it's important to let them know they have that. And that's, I mean, we noticed that when we first did our Google Action and launched it, we had to reach out to people so they knew it was there before they turned it on.
Yeah, I mean, we all get those updates on our phone, right? So you want to know what's the next great thing, and so that's the same thing we want to try and drive from an appliance is when you get that OS update, what's that next great thing that it can do?
Do they actually, forgive my ignorance, but do you email them? Does it appear on the appliance itself? Both? Is there another way that you communicate with them that there's an update available that they could initiate? How do they find out?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's an update that they can download. They have to acknowledge it. Email, push notifications are all various different ways, and I'm sure Frank has many other ways that he can get there.
Well, we send doves, but you know, it does all of it together. It's email, it's in-app messaging, it's push messaging, and there's one maybe a bit more surprising channel of getting the word out, and that is many times leveraging the happy users, because when you know what's happening as far as the way they're using it, you can identify the people that are actually really maximizing it and what we call really happy users. And if you leverage that in a way that you incent them to share their experiences, and to a certain degree also give the right ratings where they need to go, but even offer a friend that they know who's really into this, and then they become sales agents for you. But beyond just helping you sell more, they also become evangelizers. They're becoming they're helping you get the message across. But you need to ask the right person. It can backfire. If you ask the wrong person at the wrong time, it can work the other way around.
So creating some kind of community around the product that people can share experiences and see what the possibilities are. Are there features that, obviously you're getting data on what people are using and not using, are there features that you thought were going to be a big hit and that just weren't? And if that happened, what did you do? Okay. Shawn, why don't you answer?
Sure. I mean, I think there's differences between the features, right? There's some what I call catalysts that really drive engagement, and those are things that people are super passionate about. Like coffee is one of them. For us, we have a refrigerator that has essentially a K-cup dispenser built into it, and there's a lot of passion around coffee and wanting my coffee in the morning and scheduling it, and that's obviously something that works really well when it's connected. Other things that I don't think have quite really taken off as well as we'd like, and it's nothing against the technology, because I think the technology is great. I just don't know that it's hit the mass, and so we have sous vide probes that are in our product, and they work great. They make a great result, but I don't know that the average consumer kind of wraps their head around that as much as we'd like them to, even though there's some stuff out there. So it's available, it's there, but we don't get as much utilization out of it as we like.
And you're not planning to phase that out and figure something else?
Because it is such a great way to cook, and we want to have that ability to be able to do it. And it's just, again, it's one of those that maybe working with Frank, it's an education thing of what can really happen, because when you have sous vide, it's an amazing experience when you've done it right. So.
And is there anything that you can add in terms of features?
I was going to say, even like in the, let's say, non-connected space, I mean, one of the things that I think across the industry we haven't done justice to, for example, is induction cooking. Mm-hmm. And it looks very similar to what's already out there. And so it's the education around what the benefits are, because it's a lot more efficient. There's potential it's being safer for people because the heat goes down right away, and there's a lot of more precision or control when you're cooking as well.
And so have there been features that you've been surprised by that people really adopted, that they, that you maybe didn't think they were going to latch onto on that level, and what can you learn from that?
Yeah, I mean, one that surprised me, so we launched a connected countertop microwave a little while ago, and I was skeptical. I was an old microwave product manager, so I was like, why, what is this going to really do for us? And I questioned it. And it really surprised me because the interactions that we got from consumers, particularly with voice, was pretty strong. And so it kind of led us down this interesting path of what we call different abilities. So when you think about a microwave, it's the smallest device that we make. It's got probably some of the most buttons that we provide on a product. It's got some of the smallest text. some of the smallest buttons. So when you look at somebody that has a visual problem or has a targeting problem with their hands, trying to do the microwave, the voice becomes a really, really interesting interface for that. And I was really surprised at the adoption that we got out of it. And even if I took a poll here in this crowd, it's probably a little different, but it's roughly about 50% of the people that know how to actually change the power level of their microwave. And having America's Test Kitchen, I'm sure you see that a lot of the prepackaged foods are varying power levels, and to be able to tell your microwave just to do 2.5 minutes at 50% power is a lot easier than trying to figure out what
the 5 buttons you have to push.
So I think that was one that really kind of led us around, that just says, hey, let's make sure that we don't discount something before we actually go out and try it. We can always kind of ratchet it back.
And building on that, it makes a lot of sense, because it's kind of where we want to go. Of people don't want it to set the time; they wanted this job. I want to defrost chicken, so it helps you in there. And then another one that we've seen is, for example, the whole air fry trend. It's funny that we've had convection in our ovens for such a long time, and the adoption for that hasn't necessarily been great. Taking advantage of those same fans, we're doing air frying. I mean, the food comes out great, but people have really been excited about that.
And it's one additional appliance they don't need to get. It adds value to the thing they have. It's multiple. Yeah, I can see that. Are there any, Frank, from your point of view, ways that people can get, appliance manufacturers or people who make smart gadgets, get people to try different things, with your customer engagement?
I think just connecting to the previous question and going into that, there's something to be said about once the product gets connected, you basically get, as a manufacturer, you get a digital interface. You get other screens that are out there. So everything that has to do with settings, that was too complicated sometimes for the buttons and people being able to do it, and maybe some setting changes that you never thought to kind of expose because you would never get it right with the physical buttons. Then we basically say, hey, I have a digital interface that's out there, so you can really expand the capabilities. And it's a different way when you're looking at the product, saying it has a digital side to it. Kind of it opens up a big piece there. To your particular question, once it's out there, I think there is we call it the onboarding chasm, which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with, because sometimes a lot of manufacturers are really deep into the question of what else am I going to deliver, and tend to forget that there is this big chasm right there. Get them home with a product and get them onboarded. It's a huge issue. The percentages of products that are not being properly onboarded is big. So in order to people really to even begin to get the value out of the product, a lot of thought needs to be going into this onboarding. And I can tell you, again, from experience of seeing quite a number of products, when you come to budget, the connected product, a small percentage of the budget is, put into, okay, how is the onboarding going to look like? And a lot of it is developing capabilities on the back end. If they don't cross the first tier, all the rest is totally irrelevant. And I keep being surprised by sometimes cutting corners on that. There's something, they bought it. Well, the fact that they bought it doesn't mean they're going to onboard it. You really need to make it frictionless. There's the whole issue of Bluetooth for desktop counter and stuff, sometimes saving on the bomb, saying they're going to figure it out with the Wi-Fi, typing in those small... No, every cent that goes into better onboarding is money well spent. And as I think you said before, you can always upgrade and get more functionality later, but get them onboarded. This is the number one task. Don't cut corners over them.
Yep, that makes sense. If they're not using it, they can't do more with it. I know that you have, in order to go from the early adopters to really widespread smart kitchen adoption across America, what are some of the things that really need to happen? I mean, I understand once they bought it, getting them to use it, but just getting more, you're saying demos are good, but what do you see needs to happen to get it to really be adopted widely by most Americans, that we change the way we fundamentally cook?
Yeah, I mean, it's value. Obviously, is I think the obvious answer. I look at it like, all of us understand Bake 350, right? That's how we grew up. It's how most of us all learned how to cook. But at the end of the day, like, you want to make something. You want to make baked chicken, a meatloaf, a pot roast, whatever it is. And so I think as you look at whether it's demos, whether it's powered up in a store, whether it's a video that shows how this works, so you can go, some of the precision cooking things that we have in our products today is, if you want to make a roast, you pick beef, you pick the roast, it shows you visually where to put the probe, it tells you where to put the rack in it, and you close it up, and it doesn't ask you a temperature, it asks you how you want it done, because at the end of the day, that's what you want to solve. So I think it's things like that are going to, I think, that change the perception of kind of what a connected product is and how it can help me, inside of my home, and then the additional features and things like that can come along with it, I think is a big one. So I do think that there's that kind of mind shift of Bake 350 is fine, but it might not be the best way to actually accomplish what it is we're trying to do. Because I just want to put a good meal on the table for my family, and that's what probably most of us here want to do.
Definitely. I think we were talking about this earlier, and I was saying we spend a lot of time in America's Test Kitchen trying to get people to use a thermometer, like actually get an instant read thermometer, put it in the food, and cook it to that temperature. But there's a barrier. They have to buy it. They have to buy the right one that actually reads fast enough so that they get a real reading in a real amount of time without roasting their arm. And they have to use it, and then they have to figure out what temperature, they have to read the recipe and say, it should be 175 if you put the probe here. If the probe comes with it and it's asking you how you want it done, wow, barrier's gone, you'll get better food. Yep. So maybe that's something that people can understand, and they're not being asked to be scientists, they're asked how you want your food, just like you have in a restaurant. You want your steak medium rare? Okay.
Right. Yeah, I didn't tell him what temperature to sear it at or anything like that.
Right. You don't have to know that.
I told him how I wanted it. So
that would definitely make a difference.
I would add that there's the role of almost educators. There's this new capabilities that are coming out. How do we make people use it? And you need to remember, every customer has his own customer journey. So if you already established a relationship, there's some communication channels, there's a communication going, then the question is, did you make the first step? Okay, so the next thing, so the messaging for the person that already has it, this is everything we can do. Or if you did something, you build on it. It's really like teaching a child, to walk. You don't throw everything at him, but you need to stay attuned to what he's actually done. If he's done something new for the first time, then you find the right moment to say, this is great, that's the next thing you can do. And if he does it, then it comes again. If he does not do it, then there's a different way to coming around it. But each one has his own kind of evolution curve, and you cannot look at your user and say, okay, this is how it's done. This is a two-way street, and it has to be interactive. And it has to be automated because there's no other way to deal with each one's kind of particular journey as far as evolving his usage of the product. So again, there's an investment in understanding what they're doing and then in communicating the right message at the right time to the right person. So yes.
Do any of your products give people the opportunity to give feedback on how something worked in the moment, to say, that didn't come out the way I wanted, and then, does that part of the communication?
Anything for you?
Yeah, I think that's an important part to this whole system as we learn, so that we can give tailored, personalized feedback to, or actually, and curated new content to the people. Kind of also dovetailing into the last question, or pulling some of that, for us, it's finding the partners, the other content that we can surface to them so we can get them to continue to come back, knowing that our goal is to help get people to cook more at home.
Yeah, I think if you look at the apps and the way that we've done it is kind of an engagement banner up at the top to really, I talked about the ecosystem of partners, to really kind of focus on what are the other things that are available, and to go off of kind of the two-way street. That's another example of a two-way street where we have people that we're bringing into the market, but so do the other partners that we have inside of our ecosystem. And the fact that we can make those two things kind of, if I interact with this application, this recipe application, and it works with my products, that's a two-way that I can take from their customers over to my customers, or my customers over into their space. So I think there's different ways that engagement can exist. And what's interesting about the ecosystem and connected is that it's not just necessarily two endpoints. It's it can be multiples of people that work together. I mean, we have examples of absolutely no commercial relationship with a company that is connected, but we have kind of a common friend in the middle that works with both of us, and that allows all three products to actually work together. So it was really cool. We did an example. It was Drop and Thermomix, who are two people here. It was how GE, Drop, and Thermomix can actually coordinate to deliver a stress-free Thanksgiving meal by using those three products to actually deliver it. So.
That's great. We were also speaking earlier about one of the barriers to the connected products is people's concerns about privacy. Mm-hmm. And, how do you respond to that, Nate, when people say you're gathering information?
Actually, we were talking about this before. I mean,
yeah.
She wants a real answer.
Yeah, everybody has a smartphone, or like half those people that we actually have those conversations with, you ask, do they have a Facebook account? Mm-hmm. People give up, like, do you have your location turned on? People use that. I think we have to make the benefit clear enough that they'll overcome that it's worth, like, the food that they'll get, the experience they'll have is enough that I'm going to say, okay, I will, give access to some of my information or how I'm using things.
We deal with that a lot, and I think the secret sauce is being really forthcoming and being very simple, but also kind of breaking it down, because there's many bits of information we can ask our users to give us, and you have to be very specific about the value that you're going to give back. So you cannot ask for a long list of things and say, here's the long list of things I'm going to give you back. They won't read it, and the answer is probably going to be no. So you can ask it bits and pieces. You don't have to ask everything up front. For every question that you ask, you need to specify what the value is going to be and find the opportunity to ask for the next thing. So there's always, I need this information, this is why I'm asking, this is what you're going to get back. And if I want to know, your location, it's because I want to kind of hook in weather information to suggestions I'm going to give you. Okay, that makes sense, I'll give you that. But then later on, you ask about, for something else, and you go about this way, then you're bound to get higher percentage of people opting in. Mm-hmm. But again, you need to invest a lot of thought into that, and this is not a one-off. Ask for the information that you go on.
Yeah, and earlier you mentioned GDPR, and now with the California Consumer Privacy Act as well. So I think we're all going to try to be a lot more transparent in how we handle our consumers' information.
Yeah, clear articulation of the benefit. I mean, it's, we use geolocation on our window ACs, and so you're giving up your location information, but I'm going to turn that AC off when you leave home. I'm going to save you energy. So it's that clear articulation of the benefit that I think is key.
It's great. We were interested in if anybody has any questions. We will definitely take some questions. Anybody have anything they'd like to ask our panel? Are you all having a good experience getting people engaged with smart products? Or obstacles that our experts could help with?
Just waiting for happy hour?
Yeah, we're between that and happy hour. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, yeah?
I can ask a question if you'd like, but I think it's beyond the scope. I know part of what we're talking about here in this conference is the interconnectivity between quantified health and smart cooking. So I don't know if you guys want to comment on that if you'd like. So obviously interacting with nutrition or wellness in order to, the whole system with IoT and quantified health and smart cooking products. Any comments on that?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great, health and wellness is a great interconnection of the IoT world. I mean, you just think about whether it's a wearable. I mean, I've got an Apple Watch on and it tracks what I'm doing all day long, and it ties in with MyFitnessPal and all of those things. So I think there's a definite interconnection for that, and cooking is where it happens, right? Whether it be air fry, that's a better way to cook, or a sous vide selection, or here's what it looks like if you pan fry it. Here's what it looks like if you oven bake it. Here's what it looks like if you sous vide it or something like that. I think are all interesting places for it to go. I don't know of anybody that's got it done perfectly yet, but it's definitely, I think, a really interesting interconnection, and I think it's another way to try and change how people cook. Like I might always pan fry something because that's what I know, but the power of the products that are available in this space today is tremendous, and there's probably 4 or 5 different ways that you can cook it. One of them is going to be probably healthier than that pan fry. So I definitely think it's a great space and a great opportunity.
And I think with the quantified health, or that side, suggests that at least that audience is willing or wanting to do something different. So that's where I think, again, with and with content, we have a great opportunity to surface new ways or better ways to prepare some different things that they might not be cooking now.
Yeah. Great example of passion. Like I talked about coffee earlier, a lot of people there's a lot of passion around health and wellness, and so that consumer is going to be super engaged if you get the right solution.
I think it also opens the door to the holy grail of a lot of consumer electronics and kitchen appliances in particular, which is how do we get to a subscription? I mean, this is great, we solved this thing, but how do we get them to subscribe to something? Especially as the costs are beginning to be ones that are kind of spread over time. It used to be you sold, that's it, but now there's other associated costs that actually, as long as they use it, providers needs to pay. So getting to a subscription is the holy grail of that thing. I know a lot of companies are thinking about that, and it usually is about either content or service that kind of builds on what you already have, and this whole wellness area is a good connection point because there's a lot of things that you can provide on top. And it doesn't have to be rocket science. I mean, it can just give that next level of information or something that you can get there and people can try and then opt in or opt out. You can kind of ease your way into it. But if you use the whole issue of the health and kitchen together to kind of, I guess I'd put it differently. If you're thinking about, what kind of subscription can I sell on top of something smart that I have in the kitchen, kind of trying to build a service or a content that kind of somehow touches on health, because kitchen and health are tied at the hip, that'll be a good place to start experimenting and see how you can cross that barrier and to get to some kind of a meaningful subscription, I guess.
Just triggered something in my mind. So I think putting on my hat as like a consumer potentially buying appliances. Like right now, I feel like it would be really hard to figure that out. It's the question of decades ago: is it going to be beta or VHS? Right. So from your standpoint, when you're picking partners for platforms or working towards a subscription service, is it going to be something where you're looking to have something that's proprietary? Is it going to be the world of today like, oh, well, if I subscribe to Netflix, I'm locked out of this programming, so I subscribe, we have to get Hulu too. Like, if I commit to GE or Electrolux, am I potentially locked out down the line with, out of Chef Lee's with Bosch? Or are you going to be with certain food retailers online or services that if I go GE, I'm not going to be able to get that? Like, I'm just curious if you've thought that far down the line. Is that a hook? Is that a concern to the consumer?
Exactly. Let me just open the book. I think I spoke of choice earlier, right? And so that's something that we really focus on, is trying to have this ecosystem of partners that is available for consumers to pick from. So we work with Google, Amazon, and Apple, depending on the product. And we have, every one of our recipe providers is here, Heston, Innit, Drop, Side Chef, etc. So they're all there. There is work on both sides, right? So there's an API. You need to sign an NDA in order to get it, but there's an API that we're happy to integrate with people, but there's work and there's resources that need to be done. So do I integrate with everybody? No. They definitely want to be like-minded, and I want to understand their company before we go and do something. That's why you just can't go and grab my API and start interacting with my products. So we need to have a relationship. So sorry about that one, but yeah, it's just how the systems talk to one another. I think that's key, in my opinion. That's why we list it as such a thing that we try and focus on, because it's all of our products and all of our brands. So if you buy a Monogram product or a Cafe product or a GE product, they're made for a specific set of customers. Like that, GE is much more trendy and kind of streamlined. Cafe is much more design oriented. Monogram is a ultra premium line. So if you fit in one of those customers, we've got a product and we've got a platform, and the ecosystem works across all of it. So it is not a, hey, Monogram only gets these people or Cafe only gets these people. As long as the product's capable of handling it, we're willing to do it. That's kind of our stance. So I don't know.
Yeah, we actually have very similar in terms of being open, because we want to meet people or allow people to use what they already are using, whichever recipe provider. If they shouldn't have to switch because they bought a specific unit. I know some other competitors may not be, might be more closed. But.
We have a question right here.
When you were talking about what you do with your data, I'm always curious to figure out what happens with that. So is it that you're using it at home within your company and your partner companies to figure out ways to make your product better? Is it also something that's a revenue stream for you where you're selling the data, or is it really just, I'm not trying to, it makes it sound like I'm trying to be a little insidious here, but I'm really trying to figure out, well, I want to know if you're selling it, but also how does it, what are you using it for? And if you're using it to make things better, that's great, but it's very fuzzy.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can only speak for ourselves, but currently we don't sell our data. We use it strictly for understanding how products are being used, what are the most common features, so that we can improve the product for the next generation.
It's similar for us. If you have a partner, right, you've signed up to 2 privacy policies, mine, and you've connected theirs too. So I can't speak to their side, but it is about, we're a product company, right? And we want to deliver products, and we want to deliver an ownership experience that we can be proud of, that hopefully at the end of the day, you're happy with, and you buy another, one of our brands from a product standpoint and stay inside the family. And hopefully I'm delivering that promise to you of delivering you features, value, and benefit in the products by doing that. So that's kind of how we focus on it and how we drive new features into our products that we think are beneficial and people are going to use.
I can tell you that the regulator has stepped in. The GDPR in outside America, and it's happening here in California now. So you legally have an issue. You cannot take the information from the user, not tell him that you're about to sell him off to someone, and do it. So those doors are kind of shutting down, which I think is actually positive. Mm-hmm. So if you are about to do something with the data that is not bettering the product or upgrading the communications or what you can offer him, then you're out of line. So at least in this area, I think there's progress has been. There's a long way out there, but that's happening. We as a platform, we support. We support GDPR. Our customers can do anything with their data, but this is what they signed up with their customers, and there have been, in Europe, there have been a couple of lawsuits, pretty big, around using data that is in breach with the new GDPR. It's just less than a year out there. So they mean business, and I know California is on the path of doing the same thing.
I think we can take one more question right here.
I'm curious about what you guys see moving forward with regards to really easy-to-use multi-purpose devices. Like we see some here in the hall, the June oven, I think Markov level. There's a number of companies out there like this, where you just put something in and it figures out what to where it looks in. This was all in one versus the kitchen with a lot of different high-end equipment. Are those two areas going to converge or diverge from each other?
Okay. So if you look at what we have, and we've got a product here, you're getting cameras, you're getting Heston integrations, you're getting sensors built in. So from our perspective, we're taking those technologies, taking them off the countertop, working with those partners, and driving them into what we would call a major appliance that is, I think, typical in a traditional home. So at least in the kind of short to midterm, that's where we see ourselves, and a lot of it has to do with the background that we're a major appliance company. So.
I mean, yeah, I think that we'll see some of that converge a little, or the technology transfer over, but in the short term, I think a lot of those countertop applications still can complement or supplement. In case you don't have a double wall oven, you might need a second cavity to do some cooking, especially around holidays. So there might still be a place for that, but again, tied to the same ecosystem, ideally.
Okay, well, thank you to our panelists. I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom.
Thank you.